YouTube, Peace Bucks. Hi. Give me 2 seconds. Let me just make sure everything is hunky-dory. Yeah, we're good. We're great. Wonderful. Okay, let's see. What are you guys talking about? Peace Bucks. The NATO summit was productive. We had a good squad on the clock. This administration is a great diplomatic arm, like Rat Pack style and business know-how. Interesting. Very interesting, Peace Bucks. Did you watch all of the press availabilities? It was definitely diplomacy slash almost like military decision-making on the fly. You could see, look, this administration has just been pretty astounding when it comes to allowing the American public to see how the president thinks in real time. And a lot of that, like you saw during these press availabilities, like he was being asked, what's the latest with Iran? And again, remember, this whole thing was supposed to be about NATO, and NATO is about keeping Russia in check. And so Ukraine was supposed to be the focal point. But obviously, we saw some escalation in the Middle East, Iran and the United States trading strikes, the United States once again ramping things up. And so throughout the day, the press was asking the president about it over and over again. And he was basically like, I don't want to deal with him anymore. And he was calling them, what was it, scum and these types of things, and seemed to be frustrated and then saying that, yeah, maybe we're going to continue to attack even more. And it was, again, diplomacy like we've never seen before. But what happens now? He's left. He has left Turkey, and he's now headed back to the United States after, I believe, a stop in Great Britain. So what's going to happen in the next days, weeks? We don't know, but it is a volatile situation. All big aces here, huh? Hi, Anna. Anna? Anna. I'm going to call you Anna. Hello, SML. How are you? James, great to see you. Oh, thanks. You don't have to do that. We've shown Iran incredible patience and abstinence from violence, and also like 13,000 strikes. But yeah, if you're talking about how the United States has not targeted a lot of the civilian infrastructure, which they could target, that's a kind of a threat that's been looming for a while, but there has been significant restraint. You're right. Let's see. Hi. How's it going? Had my first field experience on the 4th of July. How was it, James? Kyle. Trump is playing. That's an interesting take, too. Let's see. That is a take that a lot of people have. But yes, feel free. Tell us how you feel here. This is a place where we can all just chat about how we all see the world. And I'll tell you how I see the world. I just want a better world. I just want us to get along. And I know that's a naive, insane thing for a news person to say, but that's what I'm hoping for. Let's see. It is. Okay. Where's Lisa? Yeah, where is Lisa? That's Lisa over there. She's way off in the corner. But we have the, oh, and then do you see this blackness? This is studio renovation as we speak, so we're not going to be able to use that side of the studio, this far side, because we are doing some reno. I think that there's going to be some new walls that go in there.
After the show, I went directly to Columbia Presbyterian Hospital for my date with Dr. Ford.
Wait.
Hi, Dr. Ford.
Oh, I thought that was you.
I know, I'm very
Lisa.
chipper.
Hey, how's it going?
What you're about to do to me.
There she is.
A pretty little colon.
Great.
I'm good. How are you? Wait, we have to figure out some like special behind the scenes treat we're gonna do next week when you're in New York.
Oh yeah, we got to figure out first of all how to adjust like some audio issues. I think that there's a mix, like there's a delay situation that Kevin was telling me about. But I think we should be able to do the stream remotely. So yeah, and then we should definitely do like a behind the scenes around 30 Rock. It's a very good idea.
Yes.
Campbell Corn Lab, greetings and salutations. Yeah, I'd love to sneak into that control room and show everybody where it is. Oh my gosh, James had his first on camera in the field. James, are you a reporter? I forget. Hey, Terrible Maddie. Hello, how's it going? That would be great. You should do one of those tours. Let's see, Kyle. What did Kyle say? Oh yeah.
We got a
Elon wants to
reporter
charge
from
and
Baltimore
control
on that
the
bus crash.
Oh, nice. Okay. Are they, and they're on scene?
I believe so. Yes. I believe so. Yes.
Nice. Okay, cool. Terrible Maddie, editing, and it's been busy. Hey, Terrible Maddie, where are you at again? Okay, also, James, tell me everything. How did it go? So James, I believe, is a reporter, and he had his first field experience, and that is a terrifying thing to experience. Stuck in downtown Manhattan yesterday due to the building. You were in the
James,
frozen
tell us
zone, Jenny?
everything. Tell us everything.
Terrible Maddie. Oh, Albuquerque. That's okay. Hey, and which station are you at? Are you at the Cobb? Are you at the Coat? Are you at the Kirky? Where's my mug? My mug. The Coat! Ah, nice! Hey, why did you guys, man, when I was in Albuquerque, you guys would rough us up, I'm not gonna lie. You guys are pretty great. SML's wondering how Lisa is. It was a little scary at first. It was terrifying. Like, I remember my first live shot was out at the Sunport, and I was panicking. And then, yeah, I was panicking, and it was a weather story, and it was getting really windy, and they'd set up a light, right? And I'm like talking way too fast, and I'm just super stressed out. And then the light fell. The light that the photographer was using fell. And then for some reason, like in that chaos, and when the light fell, I was like, well, this whole live shot's a mess now. And then I just felt so much more comfortable. And then it was just kind of all downhill from there. Downhill in a good way. Like we were coasted through the rest of the live shot because, you know, the light fell and I didn't, which was a win in my book. So yeah, that was, I think, one of my first live shots, and it was pretty scary. But yeah, my first news report was that. My first news report was, that was the live one out in the field. My first one that I wrote was in New Mexico, in the desert. There were some bighorn sheep, and I love this guy named Tom Joles. Terrible Maddie, you've heard of Tom Joles. He's a legend, right? So I was like helping Tom out, and I wanted to learn everything, and I was working on the assignment desk, and I was like trying to write and trying to just absorb everything I could. And I went out and I was like, I want to be a reporter, and I'm going to go out in the field, and I'm going to do these interviews. So I go out into the middle of the desert near Socorro, where the Burlington Northern Santa Fe Railroad was coming through. And there were some bighorn sheep that kept getting hit by trains. And we got this crazy shot, and it was like these bighorn sheep, and they were jumping over the tracks before the train came, and then the train would zoom by. And I was like, oh, I know. It's not every day you see bighorn sheep playing chicken with a train. That's a good line. And because you know I like dad jokes. And then I wrote that, and then I wrote a bunch of garbage after that. And I took it to Tom Joles, and I was like, hey, could you help me with my script? And he looked at it, he's like, hey, this is really good. And then he looked at the rest of it, and he's like, oh, no, this is bad. This is really bad. But this part, okay, I think you might have it. We'll work on everything else. And then after that, like, I think I don't know, I got in. And the next thing you know, yeah, we're on the stream. This is Polly. She doesn't like to be on camera, but. Yeah, sure.
New York for some reason.
Okay, got it. Okay, anyway, so that was the beginning of writing for news. Fun fact, me and Maddie used to watch a few of our friends up in AK do the news on TikTok Live. Really? Interesting. Interesting. And James, where are you at? What station are you at? I've been recording in the newsroom and it's so stressful. Oh my gosh, I love that this is like becoming the newsroom chat. Meister, hello. Thanks so much. And are these glasses? I don't know, I got them in Italy. Oh, they're Armani, fancy. Yeah. We got them when we were at the Olympics. Hi to all, first time here. Rosanna, I'm from Southern California. I'm 73? Wow, 73 years young? Great to see you. Thank you so much for being here.
5 minutes.
5 minutes. 5 minutes.
B to G.
There is a slight echo in the stream. Not sure if it has to do with the delay on YouTube. Interesting. Yeah, so here's what we do. We there's some weird way that we rig this up during the behind the scenes stuff, and then during the show, you'll see us try to get the lip sync down, and then we take this mic, the mic that I'm wearing for the studio, so it should clear up when the show starts, hopefully. Let's see. NBC Watertown, all right. You're in the Peacock family, unlike Maddie over there. We'll have to get you an NBC job somewhere, Maddie. Let's see. Peace Bucks, no, stop that. Stop with the glazing. Yes, SML. Hallie is in Florida. What is she doing in Florida? She's on a secret mission. I can't tell you, but it's gonna be fun. And you guys are gonna like the story that she's doing. I always get really self-conscious about my writing when I have to record promos in our newsroom. Hey, Terrible Maddie, are you a reporter? What is your current role in the news? What's in my mug? It's not vodka, it's green tea. Crazy Gabe? Aw, thanks. Okay, so Crazy Gabe, if this is your first time watching, what we do here, this is an actual news show on NBC News. If you're watching at home and you got a TV nearby, you can turn on the TV. If it's like a Samsung or a Roku, whatever, just look for NBC News Now. You'll see right now, Top Story, anchored by Tom Yamas. That's on, and then in about 3 minutes, you'll see our show pop up. Our show looks a little bit more like a traditional news show once it starts, but what you have stumbled upon here is the behind-the-scenes secret party before the show where we all just get to chat about the news, and you'll also, during the commercial breaks, be able to chat with us here. You have questions about what you see, hot takes that you want to share that aren't hurtful to other people, all those things, you can share them right here. So go off. This is your chat for the next hour. WFLA, hometown. Promotions producer. Oh, so Terrible Maddie, you get all the fun stuff. Promos are great. That is a fun, and anytime you're out in the field, it's in a great, like you don't have to deal with the crazy weather, right? You don't have to deal with insane traffic, hopefully. Holla! Hi, in Canada. What do you do before going on air to get yourself psyched up? Meister, I stream and I chat with the chat. That's what I do, seriously. I didn't realize that that's what I was doing for a while. We just wanted to open up this two-way street. But all of a sudden, this chat, that's what gets me going before the news. It's so much fun. Secret party, I like that, yes. Station is so small that we don't have a newscast. It's a little different since we are so small.
90.
But that's awesome that you live in a place like that, where things are peaceful, people are probably nice to each other. That would be the best. Try to watch a cartoon, visualize realistic version. Interesting. Peace Bucks. I'll have to try that. So fun. Topicals. Yeah, topicals are terrible, Maddie. Oh, I do not miss topicals at all. Okay. Have a great show, everybody. Have a great show. Hi. Are we getting close? No, we still got a minute. I need people's scripts before they ever write them. Yep, I remember getting those emails. It's like, hey, where's your script? I need to write a tease. Can you do this? And then I'd be like, promos, you're emailing. I don't even know what the story is yet. I remember those days. Rain in Northport. Good to know. Thanks for the pre-show. Kyle, anytime. You found it. This is what we do all the time. And stay around for the commercial breaks because usually that gets a little bit fun as well. So we are going to be talking about Iran off the top. Then we've got a bunch of other stuff throughout the show, and we're going to be ending it with space because there were some satellites that were launched here from the West Coast. See, you know what that's the sound of? That's the sound of Lisa. She's like, God, he is just droning on. Anyway, space is coming at the end of the show. So stay tuned for that. Here we go, 10 seconds. Big Mike giving us a countdown. Have a good show, everybody.
Going B to G.
B to G.
3.
It has been a day and night of more airstrikes, more explosions, more air raids happening across the Middle East as Iran and the United States are locked in the most significant escalation of this war in weeks. Now, CENTCOM confirming ongoing strikes happening against Iran. This new video of a huge explosion over an Iranian port could be one of them. And on top of the already more than 80 targets that have been hit in just the last 24 hours, we are hearing they include air defense systems, boats in the Strait of Hormuz. And as the entire world braces for yet another surge in violence, the Middle East is preparing for more instability in that region. And as diplomacy seems to take a back seat, so many questions are still on the table. Like, are negotiations with Iran right now just completely over? Well, here's how the president answered that question earlier today.
To me,
20.
I think it's over. I don't want to deal with them anymore. They're scum. You know what scum is? They're scum. They're sick people. There's something wrong with them. They're cuckoo. I think they're wasting their time. They're a bunch of lying guys. As far as I'm concerned, it's just a waste of time dealing with them.
4, 3.
So harsh words. So is the war fully back on now?
Mr. President, it seems that the war with Iran may start again. What do you expect from your European allies?
I don't think it's going to start again. I think it's going to go very quickly. They hit a couple of ships, and so we hit them much harder. When they hit, we hit 10 times harder. You know, we hit much harder than they do. We have a lot better equipment than they do. We may even, somebody asked before, do you think you'll hit them tonight? I said, we might. Yeah, we might. But when they hit, we hit. You know, it's what we use their language. We speak their language. No, I don't think so. I think anything that happens is going to be over very quickly.
Him saying we might has turned into we have, and here at home, how are we going to see all of this play out? Already oil prices have jumped about 5%, something that the president did not seem too worried about.
The prices of oil are dropping like a rock. Now they'll be up a little bit, and this will end very quickly. We have an oil glut right now because we got all those boats out of the Strait, and it's going to drop.
And we're going to get an update from Turkey in just a minute, but first let's go out to Washington where NBC's Courtney Cubie is standing by. Courtney, news strikes tonight after dozens of news strikes last night. What do we know? What are we hitting and why?
So we expect tonight's strikes are going to be escalated or larger than what we saw last night. For perspective, last night, the U.S. military struck at least 80 targets inside Iran, and it was primarily locations along the coast, in or near the Strait of Hormuz. So things like coastal surveillance sites, anti-ship cruise missiles, locations where they were firing them from. They struck about 60 of these Iranian fast boats that have been threatening and targeting commercial shipping throughout the Strait of Hormuz for months now. It's not really clear how tonight could sort of escalate above that. But one thing that we should be watching for, because these strikes are ongoing, is if we get any sense that the U.S. military is starting to target facilities that are further inland, or if by chance they start moving on to targets that are slightly different. So, for instance, not locations that are directly targeting shipping and threatening commercial ships in the Strait of Hormuz, but potentially other targets. Remember, President Trump has spoken even recently about the possibility of the U.S. going after more civilian targets like energy infrastructure and even water desalination plants at Gotti.
It seems like the Strait of Hormuz, once again, the focal point, but it also seems like they're talking about nuclear sites as well.
Yeah,
Yep.
I mean, that's one of the big questions, too. Now, President Trump, again, repeating what we've heard out of the Trump administration now for more than a year, that the U.S. military strikes in June of 2025 did so much significant damage to Iran's nuclear facilities that they don't have the capability to even produce anymore if they wanted to. He frequently refers to the materials that are underground, buried by many of those U.S. airstrikes, as nuclear dust. But keep in mind, President Trump has also talked about one of the main strategic goals for the U.S. military embarking on this war in Iran back in February as being to ensure that Iran can never have a nuclear weapon. Well, those two statements obviously are in some conflict with one another, right? If, in fact, their program was completely destroyed, or the word he likes to use is obliterated, then why the need to go in and carry out more than 13,000 airstrikes during the course of the war as a means to ensure that Iran's nuclear program is, in fact, obliterated? But today, President Trump repeated his talk about the main strategic goal for this as being eliminating Iran's nuclear program. Despite that, the U.S. military, during the course of this war, didn't really strike much of the nuclear facilities or go after many of them. It was a very small percentage of the overall strikes. That would be another thing that would be a clear and obvious escalation if, in fact, we hear that the military is striking anywhere near nuclear facilities tonight. Gotti.
Yeah, in fact, we have a little bit of what the president said in regards to all of that. Let's play that if we have it.
They will never have a nuclear weapon. That stuff is so far down under a mountain. It's a granite mountain that collapsed on top of it. Take months to get it out.
It take months to get it out. Again, now that we are seeing these escalations, months to get it out, you'd assume that that would be some sort of insertion team or somebody down on the ground to do that. Is that still in the realm of possibility?
Everything is possible. I wouldn't put that past. The officials who we've been speaking to now for months say that, look, there's a recognition of just how dangerous and difficult that mission would be. The U.S. could do it if they were ordered to do so, but it would require a pretty large footprint. It would require an extensive period of time. And if we're actually talking about the U.S. military going in and trying to retrieve the uranium stockpile, President Trump is absolutely right that at least 3 of those facilities did suffer extensive damage, and it essentially buried much of that stockpile. But the real question, Gotti, is not just about the uranium that's enriched, remember, to various levels, but what about Iran's centrifuges? What about their ability to actually reconstitute some sort of a nuclear program? You know, the Trump administration has consistently talked about that being a strategic goal, but they've never really explained exactly how they will ensure that Iran can never have a nuclear weapon off of this war.
Yeah, important to remember how it all started, and yet so confusing these days. NBC's Courtney Cubie, thank you. And let's check in with NBC News Chief White House Correspondent Garrett Haake in Turkey tonight, traveling with the president. Garrett, this has been such a bizarre day. The president, as we saw, seemed to be making strikes and military decisions kind of on the fly, literally while meeting with global leaders who were all watching to see what he was going to do. Did you get any sense as to how that was received by NATO as a whole?
I talked to a couple of European defense officials around that this morning, Gotti, and I think overall there was a feeling that this is not totally unexpected. There's not a lot of trust in Iran. The Europeans need the Strait open, and they're kind of powerless to do much about it at this point. They need the U.S. to strike a deal or to forcing the Strait back open. You heard from Mark Rutte, the Secretary General, today applauding the president's decision to retaliate against Iran. How long that patience will last from the Europeans, I think, is a separate question. But for today, at least, there was kind of an acknowledgement that this fighting never really stopped. And as long as the war doesn't fully go back into kind of a full-scale operation, the Europeans are kind of okay with what they saw today.
Interesting. And Garrett, with all this stuff in Iran happening right now, it's easy to lose sight of this. But wasn't NATO, this whole summit, supposed to be about Ukraine? I know you had a very poignant question about whether the United States could engage on both fronts there. What'd they say?
Yeah, Mark Rutte seemed to think that the answer was yes, that the U.S. can do both things at the same time. And from what I saw of the meeting between Presidents Trump and Zelensky today, that seemed to be true. I actually think this meeting didn't get as much attention as it might have on any other day,
and
but it was
this
probably one of
A6
the
all
most
still works,
productive
right?
sit-downs between the two presidents because President Trump agreed to give Ukraine those licenses to build their own Patriot missiles. We talked about this last night. The exact weapon that Ukraine needs, they can now build on their own soil. It'll take some time, but that is a big deal. And you heard also, I think, a more confident Zelensky as Ukraine has been striking deeper and deeper into Russia. The president at one point asked Zelensky if he'd be willing to go to Moscow to talk to Putin. Zelensky made this joke that almost seemed to go over the president's head. Take a listen.
I don't know that he'd go to Moscow. Maybe he would. Would you go to Moscow?
It's difficult. There are a lot of Ukrainian drones there.
Wait,
It's a little bit of a
Garrett,
cockier Zelensky than I think we've seen.
Hold on. Just to play this out, just to make sure that we have the right context. The President Trump was saying, hey, would you go to Moscow because Putin wants to meet in Moscow? And he said, well, it's dangerous. They have Ukrainian drones there. This was a joke that was made between these two?
Come on, Gotti. It's never funny when you have to explain the joke. But yes, I mean, that's the idea. I think the president would assume that Zelensky didn't want to go because the Russians have been trying to kill him for the last several years. Zelensky's joke is that I can't go there. There's all these Ukrainian drones buzzing around. That's a dangerous city. So Zelensky is taking some glee, it appears, in backfooting the Russians and essentially playing their own game by targeting Russian cities in a way they just weren't able to do earlier in the war.
It's so fascinating. I mean, comedic timing has played a role in geopolitics like we've never seen before, with both the President Trump and Zelensky kind of putting on these very weird master classes on all of it. Again, it would be so crazy to be a political
former
science
television
student.
stars before their political jobs.
Exactly. Meanwhile, overall here, given Trump's past criticism, given Trump blasting NATO for saying that they weren't doing enough in this war with Iran, where does the United States stand with NATO as he now has left?
Yeah, I think this is a little bit of another surprise, Gotti. The president came into this summit, breathing fire about NATO, complaining that they weren't doing enough to help the U.S. on Iran, that they don't pull their own weight. And something happened behind closed doors in that big meeting today, because afterwards, he was much more positive about the relationship with NATO, the commitments that they've made to expand their own defense spending, saying he's sticking around and he's pretty pleased with how things went here. Listen to this.
Time and I think a great success. And we just concluded a very successful NATO summit here in Turkey. The unity in that room was incredible. Really a love. It was sort of pretty wild. There was a love in that room that was great.
Love in the room of NATO.
So,
interesting.
All positive. Hey, I wasn't there. That was a closed-door meeting. Who can say? But look, this was all positive from the president. I do think there are probably two things to keep watch on, though. The Greenland issue isn't going away. The president brought it up again on Air Force One tonight as they headed back to the States. And also the next NATO summit for next year hasn't actually been scheduled yet. It'll take place in Albania, if it takes place at all. Mark Rutte got a question about that today. He kind of danced around it. So we'll see if this unity lasts. But for now, at least, in this small moment in time, everybody's feeling good vibes here as they start to depart Turkey.
Interesting. And finally, like Air Force One, which Air Force One are you talking about? Because, he went there on one Air Force One, he left on another, and then jumped on the new Air Force One again. Like, what happened? What's going on?
Yeah, this is the weird story of the day, Gotti. The president took the new Air Force One, that Qatari jet that was gifted to the U.S., refurbished into Air Force One to get here to Turkey, the first time they've taken it overseas. But this morning, he announced on Truth Social he'd be leaving on the old Air Force One. He was going to send the new plane ahead of him to a military base in the U.K., where American service members would get a chance to admire it. That didn't pass the smell test for reporters covering this. We started asking questions. The president was asked about it today in that news conference and said, well, I am the #1 target on the Iranian kill list, suggesting that perhaps there's something about this new Air Force One that is not up to the same security standard as the old model, which has been one of the concerns about accepting this new plane in the first place. The White House put out a couple of statements on this. They answered some questions about it later. They said, look, this plane has high-level security protocols, but we also like to use what they call deception and misdirection to keep the president safe. The president eventually got to the UK in safe airspace at a U.S. military base, much farther from the Iranian theater, hopped on the new plane, was asked about this again, and again said, look, it's about the troops seeing this, but also, why did we have to close our window shades, the pool reporters asked. That's a rare security a procedure that's sometimes taken in dangerous parts of the world. The president then sort of seemed to acknowledge, yeah, okay, well, there is that possibility that the Iranians are still targeting this. So bottom line, Gotti, it's not a fully answered question yet, but everything here looks like, smells like, feels like there were some security concerns about that new plane this close to an active war zone, which is really what we have again in Iran.
And then the words deception and misdirection invoked. Such a weird day. NBC's Garrett Hake, thank you so much. And now to some breaking news out of Maryland, where officials say at least 30 people are hurt and 2 are trapped after a bus crashed into a number of cars, finally coming to a stop in that building there. This is the scene right now in Pikesville. That's a suburb near Baltimore. The fire department is calling it a mass casualty incident, and trauma teams are responding. We're going to continue monitoring this developing story bring you updates as they come in. In fact, I believe we have a reporter on the scene right now. Yeah, we've got Kyrie Stewart, reporter out of our Baltimore station. Kyrie, great to see you. What's going on out there? I mean, you've got the bus into the building, and you've got this trail of other cars that were hit. What happened?
This is a wild scene, Gotti, I'm telling you. Honestly, wild is kind of an understatement because, as you said, we have approximately a dozen vehicles that are involved in this, including a city bus. I'm going to step out of the way and just show you part of the scene here. I'm counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 cars, at least from where I'm at right now, that's involved in this. You have a car right here. We can see its backside. It's just crumbled. Wow. And then you have a van over here to the left of my photo and pan right here. Just take a look at that. You got airbags deployed. You have a truck right here that's on the sidewalk. And then a little bit further down here, you have a car that's completely flipped over. And then right next to that, you have power lines right there on the road. A pole snapped in half. This is a wild scene, I'm telling you. But as you said, 33 injured. Of those 33, officials say that 2 of them are in critical condition. Over 100 personnel are out here right now attending to this all. What you can't see from where we're at, because we had to move around a little, is a bus that's involved, the city bus that's involved in all of this. That actually went into a building. I'm pretty sure you guys showed video of that earlier. That went into a building. I did speak with the fire chief around here, and he told me that right now they are a little concerned about the structural integrity of the building. There was actually one person that was trapped in that bus. I believe it was the bus driver, but I'm told that they were able to get them out. But again, this is just a wild scene. Shock trauma, and that's the big hospital here that really attends to stuff like this. They actually have a GO team out here right now, and they're calling in help from other areas as well. We have Howard County, and Anne Arundel counties. Those are 2 counties that border or are in the Baltimore area, I should say, rather. They're sending personnel to help with this as well, but still a lot of questions with this. Obviously, the first thing they want to do is make sure everybody's okay, attend to those 2 that are critically injured. The other ones that are injured, I'm told those are more so minor injuries. It's still bad, obviously, you know, but those are minor physical injuries. But we have those 2 others that are in critical condition right now. We had a medevac helicopter I saw that was out here. I'm told that 2 medical buses, that's how it was described to me, they were on the way here as well to help the people that were injured. But a lot of people are just shocked. You know, I spoke to one lady. She was actually in one of the shops around here. She said that she was getting her nails done, and all she heard was just a big boom. She comes upstairs and she sees just the scene out here, and she told me that she could not believe what she was seeing. So again, 33 injured. Of those 33, 2 in critical condition. We're going to work to get more information. And again, Gotti, this is just a crazy scene out here.
Yeah, Kyrie Stewart with all angles out there covered. Thank you so very much. And some more breaking news right now out of Maine this time. Graham Plattner has just posted a video on his social media accounts. It's 11 minutes long and we are still listening to it. But Plattner had until Monday to drop out of the race. It would then give the Democratic Party until July 27th to choose a new candidate to run against Republican Senator Susan Collins in November. Plattner's campaign all started to come crashing down after his former girlfriend publicly claimed he raped her back in 2021. Since then, another woman, Lindsay Fifield, has told the Washington Post that Plattner repeatedly removed protection during sex without her consent. Plattner continues to deny these accusations. NBC's chief Capitol Hill correspondent Ryan Nobles joins us now from Washington. Ryan, I know you're watching the video. We're watching the video. It starts off, it does seem like he continues to deny these allegations. But where are we right now with Plattner?
So the most important part of this more than 11-minute video, Gotti, is that Graham Plattner makes it clear that he is no longer going to be the nominee for Democrats in the Maine contest for the United States Senate. He says, and I quote, "We believe that for the movement to continue, it can't be me, and for that reason, we are suspending campaign operations. I want to make it clear," he goes on to say a bit later on, though, "I intend to file my paperwork to withdraw." Now, this is an important distinction. It's not just enough for him to say he's suspending his campaign or that he's going to conclude campaign operations. He has to physically go through a legal process where he takes his name off of the ballot. And that will then trigger an opportunity for the Democratic Party in the state of Maine to begin a process by which they will pick a replacement. So the fact that Plattner tonight is announcing that he is no longer going to be the nominee, that allows the Democratic Party to do that. Now, he does it in a very long-winded fashion, where he kind of goes through a list of grievances about the way this whole process played itself out. He believes that he has been wrongly accused. He believes that he was not given due process, specifically as it relates to the allegations of rape, and believes that this was an unfair process that was propped up by people that were politically motivated. But he goes on to say that he recognizes that even though he thinks this is unfair, that he cannot do that damage in the amount of time that it would take to regain the momentum that would allow his Senate campaign to continue. So, because he claims that he cares more about the movement and the ideals and the policies that he was fighting for, that he has decided to step aside. So the next, I'll try and forecast your next question, Gotti. The next question is, how is he replaced? And we do have an answer to that question as well, because the Maine Democratic Party, even before Plattner made this declaration that he had planned to step down, had a very lengthy call with the 100 members of its executive committee and announced that they plan to hold a party convention with more than 600 Maine Democrats that will then elect the next nominee for the United States Senate. So one of the things that the Democrats in Maine were very concerned about was that by nominating someone after Plattner steps down, that you were taking that out of the hands of rank and file voters. They wanted a process that was as transparent as possible and involved as many people as possible, despite the fact that this was going to be a very short window of time. So we now know officially Plattner is no longer in the race. We now know the mechanism in which Democrats in Maine are going to try and replace him. The question is, will this be enough for Maine Democrats to get out from underneath all of these scandals as they contest what may be the most important race on the Senate map for Democrats this fall?
Yeah, I believe we have the video that he just posted online right now. Let's go ahead and listen to what he has to say.
Hey everyone, it's Graham Plattner here. I think as many of you know, over the past couple days, I have faced some very serious allegations, and I just want to make it clear, this is all false. The things that have been claimed did not happen. It's not real. It has placed an immense amount of weight on me as I think about what needs to happen now. Amy and I are regular people. We were not looking for this experience. We were not looking to get into politics. We had no desire to run for office. I just want you to think about like what you would do as a regular person in a position where a much larger world, large forces were working against you personally to accuse you of the worst thing that a person could do, and it was not remotely true. I learned about this through press inquiries with no time to truly respond, no time for investigations before a corporate media system and the political establishment got to act as judge, jury, and executioner. Accusations are supposed to be the beginning of things, not the end. I think it's really important to understand why this is happening in the timeline, why this is happening right now. Much like October, when the first attack started, much like the news that was created the week before the primary, there is a reason that this is happening now. I only have until July 13th until I am officially the nominee. This was the last week to try to get me off of the ballot. And that's why this is occurring. It's not the false allegations, though, that have brought us to where we are. It's the fact that they are being used by the political establishment to put structural pressure on us. We live in a political system that is not built for normal people. It is a system that is built structurally to make sure that movements like ours cannot flourish. That if they begin to succeed, they can be crushed. What we have accomplished here, you made possible. The people of Maine, the volunteers, the voters, the grassroots donors, and I have all the faith in the world that we could win if we could continue to harness that. But the brutal political reality is that they are going to take everything away from us. Those in power who have the ability to do so are using these allegations as an excuse to take away all of the things that we need to run a campaign. We are going to lose our ability to fundraise. We are going to lose our ability to access voter data. We are going to lose all of the things that any campaign to function. Larger organizations, the national level party, the bigger donor networks, they have all committed to spending no money in this race if I'm in it. They would rather see Susan Collins win than have me be the next senator from Maine. What comes next needs to come from the people. Needs to come from the people of Maine. Needs to come from the voters who on June 9th, at a strength of over 150,000, the largest number in the history of Maine primaries, said no to this kind of politics. Voted for a politics that would actually represent them. Voted against the political system, against the donor class, against the entrenched forces. And I'm not asking for how this process is going to work. I'm not trying to dictate to anyone who it should be or how we get there, but I will say this. It needs to be open, transparent, and democratic. It needs to be reflecting the will and the values of the people that built this movement, the people that showed up on June 9th. People in D.C. need to stay in D.C. Decisions should not be made in back rooms by people in places of political power. Party apparatchiks are not the ones to make these decisions. These decisions need to be made in the open by the people of this state, the people who got us here. This is exactly the kind of political system that everyone voted against on June 9th. And for that reason, we need to be assured that it is going to be open and democratic as we move forward. Amy and I struggled about getting into this. Last summer, right around this time of year, we sat down and we looked at each other and we said, if we believe in the kind of politics we think that we do, we have to do this. Over the past couple days, really yesterday and today, we have had to have that exact same conversation. We believe that for the movement to continue, it can't be me. And for that reason, we are suspending campaign operations. This is incredibly difficult because I know that some will think it's an admission of guilt, and it most certainly is not. We're not doing it because of the allegations, we're doing it because of the structures that are being taken away from us by those in power. And I also feel an immense amount of responsibility to everyone who has worked so hard to get us to where we are. We went toe-to-toe with one of the most entrenched political systems in the history of the world, and we won. We beat them on June 9th in overwhelming numbers. We did it the right way. We built a campaign. We engaged in electoral politics. We motivated people. We banded together. We did it the way that we were told we are supposed to make change. And we won. And now they are not going to let us have it. Not if it's me. And so we're suspending campaign operations. I want to make clear, though, I intend to file my paperwork to withdraw. The process needs to assure that what comes next is reflective of the Mainers who on June 9th turned out and showed that they are desperate for a different kind of politics. It needs to be driven not from back rooms, but by the will of the people. And the decisions that come next must come from that. All we were asking for was health care, was to end the genocide, to use our taxpayer dollars at home to uplift our communities instead of waging war overseas. We were asking for a fair system. We were asking for an end to the corruption, the end to the money in politics. We were asking for real democracy, and we did it the right way, and we won. But now the ball is in the court of the Democratic establishment. My name might be on the ballot right now, but that ballot line belongs to the people of Maine. And on November 3rd, it needs to belong to the people of Maine. And the next Democratic senator for Maine needs to belong to the people of Maine. They need to reflect the will and the values of the people of this state. I love this state. I love Maine, and I love Mainers in ways that I can't really describe. I'm immensely proud of what we have built, And I have the utmost faith that we will continue to build and we will continue to move towards a better future. From the bottom of my heart, thank you. Thank all of you. And keep fighting. We're going to win someday.
All right, that is Graham Plattner's full statement as he now steps down from that race. NBC's chief Capitol Hill correspondent Ryan Nobles is back with us from Washington. I know, Ryan, you've been watching this as well. He talked a lot, and yet he seems to be denying the allegations that have, at this point, now forced him to step down in this race. So much support for him has been pulled back. You were talking before we watched that about what happens now. Maine and the establishment, the Democrat establishment, is in a conundrum right now because Maine voters obviously chose the anti-establishment candidate when it came to the last primary, and now part of that establishment has to decide who they want to replace him, right?
Yeah, I do think it puts them in a bit of a difficult position here, Gotti, but I also think given the reality of the situation, it's probably the best of a series of bad options that they had in front of them. The scandals surrounding Plattner were just continuing to grow. Yes, he enjoyed a significant amount of support with a very loyal faction of the Democratic Party. That is a recipe for easily winning a Democratic primary. I think in a state like Maine, which has a lot of independent-minded voters who, even though the state tends to lean blue, are not afraid to elect a Republican. They haven't had a Republican senator in Maine for several decades. The other senator in Maine, Angus King, caucuses with the Democrats, but he identifies as an independent. So I think that there was a real issue with Plattner going into the general election, given all the baggage that he was carrying, and going up against a candidate as formidable as Susan Collins, who has been counted out many times before. The last person that ran against her, Sarah Gideon, 6 years ago, raised millions of dollars, was ahead in every single poll leading into Election Day, and Susan Collins trounced her. So they now have an opportunity here to go find another candidate who will appeal to the middle of the voter base. And the challenge they're going to have now is not alienating that wing of the party that was so passionately behind Graham Plattner. And that's why I think they're going to do everything they possibly can to make this short window of time that they have to nominate a new candidate be as transparent and as open as possible, which means bringing in those progressive voices that talked about the issues that Plattner talks about in this video, like Medicare for all and strong stance as it relates to Israel, changing laws as it relates to insider training for members of Congress, changing campaign finance laws. These are all things that Graham Plattner was very passionate about. And so there are candidates there that I think can thread that needle for them, that are progressive enough that they won't alienate the base, but then will be embraced by the establishment wing of the Democratic Party, and then maybe even appeal to some independent voters as well. I talked to a lot of both Republican and Democratic operatives in the wake of these accusations against Graham Plattner. And what I heard over and over again was the best candidate for Democrats in Maine is generic Democrat. If you put up generic Democrat against Susan Collins, generic Democrat wins every time, because right now, with President Trump's approval rating somewhere in the 30s, with the Republican brand suffering right now, voters are looking for a change. They're looking for someone different. So if they can find somebody who fits the mold of generic Democrat, in other words, just isn't alienating on some level, I think that gives them a better shot than Graham Plattner did, even though he did have a tremendous amount of enthusiastic support. The support he had was strong. It just may not have been enough to win a general election in a state like Maine.
Is there such thing? I mean, a generic Democrat exists, I guess, in a lot of people's heads, but Maine is a small state, and the pool of people that are going to be choosing whoever takes this spot on the ticket, that's a small, relatively small pool of people. Like, is there a long list of generic Democrat names that they can throw in?
Yeah, I mean, there's already about 4 or 5 Democratic candidates who have raised their hands saying that they would like to run. one of the interesting things about the way that Maine does their primary process is that they do ranked choice voting in the primary, which lends itself to a much broader field of candidates that run in the primary. And so in the race for governor, there were about 7 or 8 Democrats that ran for governor in the Democratic primary. There's only one other Democrat that ran in the Democratic primary for Senate because Plattner was so strong. And there's about 3 or 4 of those candidates who all ran strong races. The nominee for the Democratic Party in Maine did not win running away. She won with relatively strong support, but there were a number of other candidates who had pretty strong showings and have name recognition statewide in the state of Maine as a result. So the most obvious name that many people are pointing to is Troy Jackson. He's the former Senate president there. He was someone that up until about 3 days ago was arm in arm with Graham Plattner and has now distanced himself from Plattner. He was on our Meet the Press program earlier today with Kristen Welker and said that he doesn't want Plattner's endorsement, but he identifies as a progressive. He is a labor leader. He is someone who has worked with unions. He also really identifies as a Mainer by trade. He was a lumberman and is somebody that, is not coming in from a consultant factory somewhere in another part of the country. He's somebody that understands what it means to be a Mainer. So that's a potential name. But there are a long list of other names of people that could potentially be part of this convention. Just before we go, Gotti, the one name that won't be on that list, though, is Patrick Dempsey, the actor from Maine, who was seriously considering it, was being asked to jump into the race, but wrote an op-ed today in a Portland newspaper saying that he's not going to get into the race. So no McDreamy, but there are plenty of other candidates.
Yeah. Yeah, the guy that you get mistaken for all the time, Ryan Nobles. Ryan.
You're the LA guy. Come on.
Thanks so much. Yeah. Thanks, Ryan. And joining us now is Jeff Mason, White House and Washington correspondent for Bloomberg. Jeff, thanks so much for being with us. I want to get your take here. What do you make of Plattner's decision to pull out of this race? And also, why did it take him so long?
Well, I'm waiting to hear if you're going to compare me to McDreamy too, but I'll give you till the end of the interview to come up with that. Gotti. Why did he wait so long? Good question. This is really, this is a tough day for Democrats because he at least for a while looked like their best shot at getting the Senate. Getting the Democratic majority in the Senate. They certainly need the main seat in order to do that. But his candidacy largely, certainly the way it's ending, has been a disaster for them and an embarrassment because it suggests or it reflects a candidate that was poorly vetted going into this race and leading to a moment now where they are scrambling to find someone and to do so in a way that doesn't create the already in place comparisons to the presidential race a couple of years ago when President Biden dropped out and Vice President Harris became his successor without what many people thought was enough of a transparent process.
Yeah, and for a lot of people that are tuning in, they started following this drama, but don't understand the Maine electorate. Mainers are red. They have a very strong independent streak that he seemed to appeal to. Describe the electorate for us, will you?
Yeah, I think you're getting to it very well right there. This is a state that you would describe as perhaps being a little bit more left-leaning as reflected by its presidential picks. And I think you mentioned earlier that Kamala Harris won Maine, by a substantial margin 2 years ago. But Susan Collins has had a dominant run in that state as a Republican in a state that, as you say, is independent-leaning and in some ways more left-leaning. But that has not ever stopped her because she is also seen as an independent voice, and she has broken with the president on certain things and been critical of him and of her party occasionally, but that doesn't make her less of a target for Democrats right now because she also votes with the party and has supported policies that are supported by President Trump, and that makes her vulnerable right now in what could be a bit of a wave election in November. But you're absolutely right to say that Maine is unique in that, in terms of that electorate and that independent streak that has helped Susan Collins and seemed to be helping Graham Plattner as well.
Yeah, and again, I'm way out here on the West Coast, as far away from Maine as possible, and yet it does seem as though so much of what happens in Maine has to do with at least split ticket persuasion, and when it comes to Susan Collins, I mean, she is a formidable force in Congress. She very powerful. Appropriations Committee, I mean, in terms of getting a small state like Maine billions and billions and billions of dollars, that's something that she has made clear to Maine voters over and over and over again. How does generic Democrat come in and compete against that type of messaging?
Well, I mean, probably you come in and compete against Trump. And that's, I think, why a generic Democrat would be doing well against Susan Collins, because you're certainly right that she has represented her state in a way and brought benefits to her state over her long career now that has created a record that she can and does and would continue to run on. So she has all of that, and a Democrat will have to come up against that in trying to defeat her. But what's the more general way of doing that? It's to campaign against someone who is not popular in Maine and not popular with a big chunk of the U.S. electorate right now, with a huge exception, of course, being his supporters. And I mean, it's only been about roughly 2 years since he won a very substantial election against Kamala Harris. But all of that to say, he's not super popular right now. And that's the playbook for a Democrat who wants to take on a pretty popular senator in a state that does have that independent streak that we were talking about.
Yeah, we'll see what happens in November, and we'll see what happens leading up to that as well. Jeff Mason, as they call you over at Bloomberg. Bloomberg's McDreamy, thank you so very much for your insight tonight.
Thank you, sir.
Sure. Don't go anywhere. Coming up next is a daycare worker seen on camera throwing a kid in the air and then dropping him. His parents now filing a suit saying he's got brain damage. More ahead next. Sometimes there's a lot to watch, but we got to see everything that's being said. The context of this is so important. This seat is really going to be a major, major storyline through the entire election. Could alter the balance of power, so it's important. So we got to do it the right way. Let's see. Hendricks, interesting take. Alaska's also. James, yeah. Man, you got the facts. No audio? Can you guys hear me now? Sorry. Shoot. Sorry, guys. Very long block. I missed you guys. Sorry we didn't get to talk, but I feel like, when things like that happen, it's important to see all the context laid out, and that's what we do. That is rolling coverage. That's Lisa. That's Lisa. 30 seconds. Okay. Lisa, so real fast, what do we have? We have
All right, coming up
C-Block.
next, we got C Block, we got Misty Maris, then we're going to take another break, and then we're going to end with Cal Fire Tech.
Yes, we're
Everything
still
else
doing
is
space.
gone.
Okay, cool.
Yes. Everything else is gone.
Okay. All right, here we go.
5, 4, 3.
Hey, welcome back. This one is a parent's nightmare. A California couple is suing a fitness club and its daycare after they say their 22-month-old son at the time suffered brain damage under their watch. And this is the disturbing part. Security camera footage shows a toddler reaching for a daycare worker. Then you see, that worker lift the child over her head. What you're not seeing here, because we are freezing this video, is the child then falling over her head backwards. After that, the worker falls on top of him and the kid hits his head. Now, this is a much different account than what the parents say the fitness center told them. Allegedly, they were told the worker fell over while she was in a squatting position holding the kid, and he was only about 1.5 feet off the ground when the fall happened. Now, this happened back in 2024. The parents say their son still has medical issues today, including hearing loss. Meanwhile, the Bay Club Gym facility tells NBC News that they cannot comment while the investigation is ongoing, but the safety of its members, team, and families are their highest priority. And let's bring in NBC News legal analyst Misty Marist for a little bit more on this. Misty, so the surveillance video contradicts what the parents were initially told, right? How important is a video in a case like this?
Well, I will say, even watching the video where you froze it, Gotti, and I've watched the whole thing, I gasp. And that is exactly what a jury will do. But the video is central because it depicts what happened on that day. It's irrefutable. That is what happened, and it is captured on camera. But it also relates to this idea of what the parents say was a fabricated lie about the severity of their 23-month-year-old son's injuries. Remember, the allegations in this case, it is negligence, it is battery, and it is fraud, an intentional infliction of emotional distress. So that dichotomy of what was told to them versus what's seen in this video, a 6-foot drop rather than a foot and a half, that's going to be central to these claims.
Yeah, a 6-foot drop with so much momentum, too. I mean, again, we all watched that video as a team, and it's horrifying. The lawsuit is also raising questions about the licensing for this facility, right?
Yeah, so California law requires that there be specific licensing for daycare facilities, but there's a carve-out to that. If parents or a parent is still on the property, then these licenses aren't necessary. They're not required. But here, the father of the child was actually about a mile away at another country club, and so because of that, there should have been these appropriate licensing in place, and that's all going to speak to that negligence and fraud claim as well.
And what does restitution look like in a case like this? Like, sorry to ask, but I mean, how do you put a number on something like brain trauma or the loss of hearing?
Right, so you're talking about a 23-month-year-old and injuries that could impact this child for the rest of his life. Traumatic brain injury, permanent hearing loss, vision issues, developmental regression. Gotti, this case will be a whole host of experts who will speak about what's seen in this video and how that could potentially create medical issues for years and years to come. And I want to say one other thing. You know, the parents also say that because they were fabricating a lie, this facility didn't tell the truth, the child did not receive emergency care right away. So that could also factor into these claims.
Misty Marist, thank you so much. And just a reminder, like even the holding of the arms and swinging like that, you always have to be so careful. Misty, thank you. And coming up in the future of everything, fighting wildfires from outer space. Not as sci-fi as it sounds. California launched an initiative that will use satellites to detect fires before they spread. More ahead on that, so stay tuned. All right.
90 here.
90 seconds, okay. We got 90 seconds. Yeah, that video was, I don't know if you guys watched it. If you haven't watched it, don't seek it out. It's very, very disturbing. Probably Chris, hello. Jenny, yes, for sure. Peace Bucks, can we discuss proper toddler handling, just to put it out there? Yes, I saw your comment, and that's why I said that thing at the end. Totally, like you gotta be careful, like just arm sockets, all that stuff. Heesh. Anyway, Lee, that was a long block. It totally was, but we gotta do it right. What stories got killed because of the rolling news coverage? Oh my gosh. That is a great question. California heat wave that's about to hit us. Increase in deportations, we should definitely hit that tomorrow. Snakes on the loose in China. Katie Couric, that shooting from that DHS traffic stop. Gosh, that was a lot of stuff. But don't worry, we saved space. Very important, guys. Here we go.
5, 4, 3.
Hey, welcome back. In tonight's Future of Everything, California and really the world are getting a major upgrade when it comes to fighting wildfires. Take a look at this. You see these space-looking contraptions in the middle? Those are fire-detecting satellites, 3 of them stacked on top of each other, and overnight they were launched from out here on the West Coast, and they are now orbiting Earth 24/7. It's part of a partnership between the state of California, the Earth Fire Alliance, and the Muon Space, who built and designed the satellites. You think like smoke detectors, but for eventually the entire planet. Let's bring in the CEO of Muon and Space, Johnny Dyer, and Executive Director of the Earth Fire Alliance, Brian Collins, to talk a little bit more about the innovation here. So good to see you guys. Thank you so much. Congratulations on a successful launch. Johnny, first question, how soon are these going to be fully unfurled, up and running, and then sending alerts down to Earth?
Yeah, so I mean, we launched them on very early Tuesday morning. The satellites are working. We've already checked them out in a lot of ways and have the basic functionality operating on the satellites. We'll be doing, a couple months of what's called calibration to get the sensors operating the way they need to be operating. And then we expect, sort of late summer, early fall to really start deploying data operationally to our stakeholders.
Yeah, just in time with the weather as it is, and the fire season always in full swing here in California. Brian, what kind of game changer are you hoping this growing constellation ends up becoming?
The FireSat constellation will actually change how we look at fire across the planet. Right now, when we have fires and they're detected and monitored, the systems that support our firefighters and our communities, they weren't built to find fires. They were built to do things like detect weather, map our planet. And these satellites are specifically designed to detect fires when they're really small so that we can see them move across the landscape, which means our firefighters and our communities will be able to make decisions early when there's a new fire in your area. So we don't wait until it's a really big fire. We can react early. We can either intervene on that fire, or we can understand that fire may be a fire that is not threatening our community. So it will change how we view fire across the planet. And for our communities, it will make our community safer by allowing everybody in the community to see what's happening around them in real time, so that they can understand whether a fire poses a threat or whether that is a natural phenomenon near you.
What's the fidelity like from space? I mean, we were showing that video that we just had up on the screen, and I'm wondering, are we talking, a fire that's a foot? Are we talking a cigarette? How big does a fire have to get before it can be picked up by your sensors?
Yeah, so I mean, we've designed the system to be sort of, at least an order of magnitude more sensitive than any other existing satellite systems that are used for fire detection to date. So we can see fires as small as 5 by 5 meters. So think the size of like a backyard swimming pool when they start. We've actually seen some extremely small fires with the first satellite we launched last year. Fires that are kind of smaller than half an acre. And so a big advantage of this system is it's going to be able to detect these fires very early in their life cycle when they first start, and get that information in the right hands to be able to make good decisions about how to manage them.
And Brian, the ultimate goal here by 2030 is to get 50 of these satellites into orbit, as I understand it. So does that cover the entire planet? And I mean, all of a sudden, the entire planet having detectors everywhere. I imagine that is a whole lot of data to receive and data to beam back down in real time, right?
That's actually the intent of the program. So this program came out of years of collaboration, of working with firefighters in the state of California, the state of Texas. We have early adopters in New York. And we have fire agencies from the Amazon basin to Portugal who helped design this system. And the big request we had is to be able to track and monitor fires across the planet at that small stage. But you're absolutely right. This is going to be a phenomenal amount of data. It's an order of magnitude in the change of what we see on wildfires on the planet. But that's a good change for us because we currently don't know the scope and scale of wildfires across the planet, from small to big fires. And this program was designed in support of firefighters and fire scientists who monitor and learn about wildfire and its effects, these are the requirements we got from them, which is pick them up small and do it at a global scale. So that means our constellation, as we start now with these first 3 satellites we just launched, which do collect globally, so they're going to collect data across the planet, but we will expand that to 50+ satellites in order to monitor the planet every point on the planet every 20 minutes in order to see the effects of fire across the planet. And yes, that's a tremendous amount of data. And we have some great partners from the data science community who are ready to start analyzing that data on our behalf.
And Johnny, I want to ask, I mean, you know, here in California, all of this sounds very promising, and yet, like when we look back to the past, obviously we had some horrible, horrible fires here in Los Angeles. And the question is, like, could those types of fires have been prevented? The Eaton fire that was started in the hills, there are a lot of questions on the Palisades fire and the initial response and how it was left there. But would these satellites have been able to see what was going on in the Palisades?
So, I mean, you know, I got to be really careful, and I'm gonna let Brian answer too, because he knows some of this better than I do, and we don't want to do sort of the counterfactual exercise for any given event, because you don't really know what the counterfactual is. But I mean, there's a lot of good reasons to believe that, you know, that we would have had a lot of information about these fires that the first responders didn't have when they were trying to make key decisions, probably earlier in the life cycle of these fires, potentially even before they got detected. You know, we might have seen them or had information about them. And so there's a lot, you know, again, in any particular case, it's very hard to answer, but in general, these will make a dramatic difference in terms of how fire agencies respond to these extremely, you know, increasingly destructive and fast-moving fires. And potentially, it would have made a big difference in some of these fires in Southern California.
Yeah, and gentlemen, I could talk to you about this all night. It is so, so important, but unfortunately, we have run out of time. I hope you come back and join us again. Thank you so much for your work. That's going to do it for us tonight. I'm Gotti Schwartz. We'll see you here tomorrow, but until then, stay tuned to NBC News Now. Okay, sorry, I forgot. Unmuted. Let's see. Cool story, counter orbit to get that speed piece bucks. That's a very, very good question. I should have asked. Long show for sure. Cool to be kind, grateful for cool people spreading kindness by fighting fire. Author Devin Shannon, I always love to see you here. Thank you so much. Stationary orbit, yes, I'm going to look into that. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching the show tonight. We will do it again tomorrow. We'll have a bunch of the stuff that we worked on for this show, hopefully tomorrow. And I hope you all have a very, very, very wonderful night. Bye, guys.